Check one, two. Good evening, everybody. Oop, I always forget to turn down the delay. Hey, welcome everybody. How are you? How are you there in Berlin? Because I think everybody's joining us from Berlin, right?
Yeah.
Hello,
Nice
one. Down.
Good to see you all.
Yeah, very nice seeing you all too, and the US as well. Not the first time. Wow.
So nice. Tonight we have Colleen back on the show. Hello, Colleen.
Hello to everyone on YouTube and Twitch. Good to see you on the other side.
Colleen, queen of the machine drum.
Well, you're soon to be king, right?
Yeah. Well, let me first introduce
we'll get into that.
Yeah, our other guests. Also joining us from Berlin are Dataline, Chang, and Ess. Welcome, guys. Good to see you guys. I can see. I guess you are. This is Chang's studio, right? So we're joining in Chang's spaceship, and you can see that they are really good friends because they're sitting together. And Chang has given Ess the nice chair.
Yes, that's actually something you noticed. That's very interesting. Yes,
You're such a good friend. You're such a good friend.
Kind, but you do have really nice pillows, actually.
Yeah, I mean, imagine what it is without them.
Yeah, well, you win on flair, though.
You can swap if you want an hour later.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, Colleen referred to the machine drum situation because I must admit, I mean, I've had like several electron devices, but I only the last week got my first machine drum.
Oh.
I'm 20 years late to the party, but yeah, I don't know why I overlooked it. But I love it so far. It's amazing. It's a really freaky box, and the thing is, I'm using it as more like an augmented drum layer to my other drums at the moment, because it's so freaky and you can get it so it's really sound designy and you can get really glitchy with it and stuff. So it's a nice complement to the more sort of straightforward stuff that I have.
It works super well for stuff like that. I've always found because in itself, it can get a bit too freaky at times. So layering it with stuff is really where it shines, I think. Yes.
But I could say, I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but there's a new machine drum OS, which is an unofficial one. And that one is like they fixed the freaky side of it. I find myself to be able to tame that weird side of it, make much more melodic content out of it, I would say.
You mean that software? Is it 1.71?
No, it's on Electronauts. If you go, there is the unofficial firmware for the machine drum. That you can find it. That is called X04.
Okay.
And
I think that's what you sent me, Jakob.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm bad at names, but what is the difference? What does it fix? You said it fixes something?
When I say fix, this is in my opinion, the way that I use it. That is this the tonal factor, which you can tune some of the machines tonally. So every two parameters is a semitone. For me, I can make melodies like that much easier now. Before I had to really try hard to get this melody because the pitch wasn't.
It was just.
What's the name? The actual terms.
Well, it wasn't tonal. It was like just tonal, pitch, or just like some, whatever.
Yeah.
It had some notes that almost lined up, but it didn't really do any like actual tuning before.
Right.
Now I think it's quarter tones.
Yeah.
So it's like 24 tet, I guess, equal temperament.
Okay,
So
that's
it's
good.
melodies.
But some of the functions are they do have logical divisions. I mean, at least in the Octatrack, like the resolution of some of the things are timed to certain positions of the parameters. So you always know, okay, if I do 12, I'm there. If I do 24, I'm there.
Yeah. If I have I do samples on the machine drum, and it's always the 3, 6, you go up semitones in the power of 3.
Right.
So it's like, but it's, I don't know. I always sample them wrong, probably. So they're always like, but it's all relatively.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that the tonal selection is available on the sample playback machine.
I think the sample playback is. I can't remember.
It doesn't even need it if it can do it by the power of 3, I guess.
But all the synth stuff is like tuned to
where
nothing, and now it's tuned to 24/10.
So that's one thing, and then there's a few different waveforms that you can play around, like a sawtooth and like
more voices,
polyphonic. Yeah, it's a great update, but it's still the machine drum. What makes it great is what it is. But this edition is really, in my workflow, it allows me to work with the machine much better, actually. Really recommend you to check it out.
I guess it makes sense for you because your music is quite melodic and, like tuned to scales and stuff like that, So I can imagine that works better for you. I also should make a housekeeping shout out. People who are watching this on YouTube and Twitch, welcome. Good to see you here. And you can ask questions and send comments in YouTube and Twitch, and we will be able to throw them in whenever relevant, or we ignore them if they're irrelevant.
If you're lucky, we ignore them.
But welcome everybody who is joining us here. 30 drop. Someone who knows who the electro machines work. Well, actually, I think that's the most. The sort of the most frequently mentioned thing, because we discuss all gear from any manufacturer, but very often Electron gear comes up, and then it's sort of like you either gel with it or you don't. Seems to be the case for most people, and I mean, it's got a particular way of doing things, and once you get into that sort of whole ecosystem, that the whole way of thinking, it's the fucking most amazing thing because it's so deep and flexible and fluid. But if you just want something that makes noise straight out of the box with no manual reading, then it can be a bit intimidating. Let's maybe call it that, But the most frequently heard thing is that nobody actually uses these machines the same way. Everybody has their own way of doing things, and there are multiple ways to reach the same result. That's one of the things that is probably the most common thing if that comes up. I mean, for me. I'm using. I use the Octatrack to play live, and I'm using it really, really simply for my live shows. And in the studio, I like to really get deep into it and sculpt sounds, and go sort of all the way. Just make it as a sound sculpting machine, basically.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's like it holds true for any instrument, I think. Like,
that's what I was listening to. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if they're. I don't know what's going on with our games. I don't know if they're that hard. If you think about like hardness to use, if you want to say that as like some kind of measurement to like functions available, it's not that bad. I don't think.
No, it's not that bad, but I mean, some machines allow you to work with them, and they have only one way to do things. And if you, for example, some people use the Octave for just as a MIDI sequencer. Some people are really focusing on the resampling stuff and the live sampling stuff, and others are using it as a sort of like a drum machine or whatever,
Yeah. And I mean, on that note, I think that's kind of where this stems from. Is like, I mean, the Octatrack is, I think, probably Electron's most popular device, at least most well known, besides the Digitac maybe in other circles. But that one it has like all the features ever. But if you use it as only a drum machine, it's not that hard to use. But like, if someone comes with it and don't know really what they want to do and just look at the features, it's insane. And I think that's kind of where the thing maybe stems from a little bit. You know.
Your sound is going a bit weird, guys.
Yeah, I've been seeing it on the screen. Ess is struggling with the thing. The gain is jumping.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the auto adjustment from
And Ess is always turning. He's up again.
Yeah. Well, as long as it stays in one place, we should be fine.
Yeah. I guess it's okay now. Oh. Is it all right now? Is it too noisy?
It's too high. Sorry, let's just hope this.
When it's going loud, it's very noisy, and when it's going low, it's it's almost inaudible.
Woo!
Oh, I see. It's a good middle ground.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, in the pre-chat, we were checking everything, and they said, well, we are dealing with audio professionals, and
I said kind of.
And I always say, I mean, nothing works as they should do, and that's what we were discussing as well earlier. It's like people use things in different ways, instruments, and in Octatrack's case or Electron Machine's case, they're very multifaceted in their own way, and all of that features can be applied to using it in many different musical contexts and combining with different machines, even instruments. Real things, and I think that even goes out further beyond. For example, I have the monotribe here, and that I end up find myself using it in very different ways.
Ooh, you're now completely gone, guys.
How about this?
Yeah, this is good. Don't touch it.
Yeah, I think for some reason the StreamYard interface with the mic volume is interacting with our Fireface, which is really weird. But anyway.
This is fine. This
sounds
is great.
Good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Sounds great. Okay, so
sorry about that.
No worries. So I think everybody or most people have seen Chang's live shows, or the stuff that he does for demonstrating the gear, and maybe they've even listened to your albums. You are very much using your gear as in a live way, right? Your music comes together as a performance. Am I correct?
Yeah, totally. You can say that.
Yeah.
I mean, to break it down in a very basic way, I'd say, there's one song that I know that I was going to sound when every track is unmuted on the setup that I have, which has electron gear and other stuff. And then I would unmute those and change the parameters according to how I'm playing. And so that gives me a platform where I can compose the music. And also while I'm playing it, I can play it different each time that I'm playing it back. So it has this improvisational and this compositional side to it.
Yeah, so basically you make like your patterns, and you make your sounds and patterns and program samples and shit like that. And then the final incarnation of whatever you want to do is a performance, basically. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, that's the latest way that I'm working. I mean, throughout the years, I've been doing this quite some long time now. And it's very scary when I look at the calendar, the numbers are just adding up. But it's a nice thing to look back and see what's being done, what we in the past year. It changes over time. I mean, years ago, I used to do the live shows without having any presets or patterns organized. I would just do it there. That would be very tricky, but it also gave a very nice buzz, adrenaline rush, or something like that. I don't know. And then I noticed that, when I hear my recordings, that doesn't sound very good. No. So
I hear you.
Yeah, I guess with me, judging my own music, the way that I perform and make has changed as well. So kind of influencing myself, I guess, in that way.
Yeah.
Well, it's changed a lot, but that's the current way that I would play. And there have been times that I would do it like that, and other times where the memory card doesn't work. The Octatrack's memory card was lost. Yeah, just do totally random stuff. Just do it, and it worked out a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to say about that feeling of being in total danger, you know, like having nothing planned and nothing prepared, maybe just your source material or like a bank of sounds or whatever, and then just come up with everything on the fly. I actually quite like it. I'm not saying it works every time, but the moments that it does come together are fucking stellar, man. That's just the best feeling ever.
It's really fun to perform that way too, but it is stressful. Like I used to do that a lot, just go to shows with like an empty electron machine and just whack something out, basically, which worked 8 times out of 10 maybe. So there's definitely a risk factor to it that got way too stressful at some point. But it is fun. It's a very fun way to perform, I think.
It does get stressful.
But you kind of
depends
need
on
some
where you
excitement
are, what the environment is. I think if you're trying to like, you're in a festival or something, like it's not really a good call to like, or you're performing after, a DJ who's like, really bringing like bangers. So, but I think for me, it definitely depends on what is the environment, how much I prepare.
Yeah, it's more the art gallery approach.
Yeah, exactly. The art gallery approach is not so great on it.
So
tried it.
I don't know.
So, Colleen, is there in your case, would you say there is a range from being like unprepared and just having an idea and a bunch of sounds and like almost full blown prepared set? Is that on an axis, or is it either that or completely improvised?
It's prepared, and then depending on how comfortable I feel, I can go off the program. But I always have everything prepared, but how far I go off into different directions depends on how the sound is, if everything's working, which you have the wrong mixer and it's like not enough channels. So you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll do this way then. So it depends on, it's basically prepared, but then I have an opportunity to meander and experiment if I feel comfortable, which if I feel comfortable, then I definitely want to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's more fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's the it always also gives you something back, if you feel you are kind of doing what you already thought of when you were preparing your stuff, like it sounds more like a playback situation, and you don't really get the same. I mean, it's stressful, but the stress also introduces the feeling of you have to really come up with something, and you are like in sort of hyper focus, really in the moment, going along with whatever is happening, and kind of reacting to yourself, really, So, and I believe the audience can actually feel that, it's
absolutely,
it's much more exciting to see somebody kind of struggle and then all of a sudden things click together and it's magic.
Totally.
Right?
And even if you prepare everything, it never sounds like it never is the same. So even if I try to like prepare everything, it doesn't work anyway. So I just, you know what I mean? I'm like, whatever. So it's just like, I have a general framework and certain patterns lined up, certain sequences, certain samples, but they always come together in a different way. Yeah. So, I could perform the same prepared live set, a million times, and it would be completely different every time, just because I can't remember what I was supposed to do. Like, what was that? Okay, I guess I'll go with that. So they also have a weird sampler that if I accidentally, it's the Tip Top 1 in my case. Mm-hmm. So there's no display. So you just have to like click it. You have to just turn it. You have to make a playlist and then turn it. And if you if it doesn't trigger the turning, then you're on the wrong sample, and then everything else is wrong. So that happens all the time to me. So I'm like, okay, to make sure that works.
Yeah. So or you have to go all around to reach the same position in the play.
And then and then there's like 12 or 20 samples on there, so you literally can't even do that. So it's like it has to be flexible because I will do it wrong frequently.
It's actually a nice sort of randomized factor to have in your arsenal. You know,
that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I don't always see it at the time that way, but yeah. So,
I would describe it like that because it's you kind of know what's going to be next, but if you miss it, it's all going to be everything else is going to be different from there.
Yeah, exactly. Whether for better or worse, sometimes for better. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One thing I remember is during the sound check, it would always, it doesn't matter how much I was prepared or anything. During the sound check, you would check how the sound system is and how it's reacting and how it sounds there. One thing I remember every time is the kicks. It wasn't right for me, what my machines were set to do, because I tweaked them as exactly I want in the studio on my headphones or whatever. Then you go to the venue and it's totally different. And the way that I set it up on the Electron machines is that, you have to go to each kit or each part or whatever and change them. That's something that I remember being like very, tricky and very like, I would even ask myself, what's the point of getting prepared if it's not going to sound exactly the same on the venue?
Yeah.
And at those moments that I would find myself that, I would end up playing a pattern that I thought it was going to sound great, but no, the bass is not right because the venue sound system is different to what I'm hearing at home. And then you would start tweaking it, and then it would really fit in. And, what you were saying earlier, like somebody's struggling and then the sound is coming together. It's kind of a combination of all those things. And talking about all this, I realized I missed this thing about it's been like a year.
I know. Yeah. It's so sad.
I used to play a lot of live sets in 2019 with 2 digitones. And I always use the high pass filter with a lot of resonance for the kicks to get a really low end. But that way you could also always tune it to the sound system. So you could find the resonant frequency and just make it absolutely obliterate the room, which was a really nice little trick. Yeah.
And would you do that during the set or during sound check or just on the fly?
Bit of both.
Both.
Right.
Bit of both.
Because an empty room sounds different than a room with people. So whatever you do during sound check might be all out of the window.
Yeah, you always have to nudge it a little bit.
Yeah. I just saw a question from Sander. Bring it back in because that was actually a nice, interesting
good question.
Yeah, like. Here we go. What would be your tips for someone doing an improv live set for the first time? Ooh.
Just practice a lot, I guess.
Yeah, and then find the gear that you're comfortable with. That's one thing. I mean, it depends if you want to do it hardware or software-based, but either way, if you're going to perform, you need to have some knobs and buttons, I guess. So it's either a MIDI controller or a drum machine or a synth. Yeah, I think that would be the first thing. And I mean, I don't know if this is good advice, but from what I can say is that try to be inspired by yourself rather than other people. That's one thing that I can look back in how I've been thinking of making music and maybe doing it like that, like not what everybody else is using, but what I'm really actually be comfortable with.
Yeah.
Rather than something like that. Hard to explain, but
No, well, there's of course a technical aspect to it, and also a more sort of artistic side to it. Like I think you touched on both. Of course you have to, as an artist, in any way, always do what you believe in. Of course, that's like as soon as you start compromising to other people or to a scene or whatever, then whenever that changes you have to change too, because you'll never be comfortable with your own kind of thing. So I guess that's very true, but I would say technically I would say you really know the range of your setup and make a choice to not bring too much, because if your setup is too big, it becomes uncontrollable. It becomes too much to handle, and it's too much thinking going on. And if it's too small, you're just standing there, watching the patterns go by, playing by itself. So there has to be some middle ground where you can make dramatic movements with very little controls. I think that would be the best thing, just to have like a big influence on whatever is being played in the room. So like panning of hi-hats or something is not relevant. Nobody's going to hear that, but changing patterns or taking out the bass or making dramatic movements in whatever way is something you really need to have under your fingertips, and you have to know exactly where they are. You have to be completely fluid with it. Like basically your live setup is your instrument, so you have to really know your instrument really well. So yeah, practice, I would say. Yeah. And
like not like you said, go easy on the gear selection. Like not too much, and not
exactly.
too less either. Lagom.
Yeah.
It's a Swedish word for
like middle,
just right.
Just right, because that's a very good point. It's like I've been through this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get the drum machine out. It's gonna be amazing. Well, you get it, and it's like, well, hang on a minute. You have to learn the thing, and you have to know how to do it, and you have to have the imagination to do it, and you have to have the practice and the time to do it. So it's all of that is well to be considered. But I think passion is also another thing that comes to my mind. You need to be really passionate about it and have a good idea.
Good advice. Be passionate.
Pro tip, don't die.
What Colleen, what would be your tip to people who want to?
Well, pretty much like you guys already mentioned, it's all about knowing your setup, because it's basically having to just be, it has to be one with you. So whatever it is, it's going to be different for everybody, but it has to be something that you just know like the back of your hand. And also not to be afraid. So on a psychological level, because it's all psychology, an improv live set, really. All live sets come down to psychology, but especially improv, because you have to like be able to just relax and say, I got this. I know this. Breathe and not try to rush through things. And
that's a big one. Yeah.
And it's so hard. I know it's like, just be relaxed. You know what I mean? Of course, it's not like something you can just do, but just try to, be with a setup that feels comfortable and isn't too much, so that you can just breathe into it and kind of, it sounds like really like, just breathe into it, sorry. Like,
no, it's
be mindful, live set.
No, but it's like kind of roll with the punches.
But it kind of is,
No, it's a really good point, because I would throw in this one. When you reach the point where it sounds good, take a pause, do nothing.
Yes, that's perfect.
Because once you start fucking things, once you start moving things around again, you lose that moment, and maybe in your head it's not perfect, but once you reach a certain, nice sound and it fits the room and it's going down well, then stick with it for a while, do minor changes or whatever. Yeah.
That's what I always find hardest to do, is like, because I get bored so quickly when playing my own music. I'm like, next thing, and then people are just like, can we just, listen to this?
It's boring.
No, but I guess like being mindful of the room is like a good. That's what you're saying, basically.
Yeah, that is the biggest challenge. It truly is. With every live set, is not to go too fast and just to kind of.
Yeah. That's hard.
There's so much adrenaline. You're like,
You just want to bust this live set out.
I also try to listen to the music, which is same as like feel the room. Listen to what you're playing too. Imagine how people are listening to it too. It's like that type of thing.
That's so true.
Okay, Zamal is asking, what about improv and being in key? Maybe that's a good one for the boys down there, because I'm I know
We know your answer.
Colleen doesn't care about key, and I don't either. It's techno, you know. It's like, I mean, in key is like, I mean, it's such a weird restriction anyway, you know, because in key, what key and in what scale, and you know, things that are not in key. In that sense, could still be harmonic in another way, you know. So, do you take care of that stuff in your live sets?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you?
I mean, I don't really know about.
You do. I'm pretty sure you do. Well, I mean, it's like if you have something in key and you have something out of key.
I can totally hear that, and that's what I want to write on, basically. And,
yeah, so you deal with it in a more intuitive way, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I really use my ears and eyes as well. I think eyes and ears are very connected. That's a difficult discussion. But yeah, it's I wish I knew about basically music theory and all the scales and which key it is in, obviously A major or whatever. But that's something that I've been looking into and reading about and trying to learn a bit lately. That's been very fun. But yeah, I don't know how to improvise in key. Basically, I would just go through the notes and find the ones that is in key of what is playing. And, you know, and some of them are not in key, but I like them. Because I remember I heard from making music for any kind of project I hear from somebody working, it's like, oh, it's out of tune, this one. And I'm like, for me, it's like, well, yeah, that, you know, it's actually pretty good, but it is out of tune. So... But,
yeah. So do you ever make actual melody lines on the fly as well, or are you drawing from a sort of saved patterns, recalling stuff that's already programmed, or both maybe?
Both. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, like I said, in today's working, how I work today, it was pre-arranged, and then I would go into places that's how it feels, and I try to listen to what I'm doing, and or maybe you should go to this spot, and then I change it, and yeah, I would make a melody on the fly. And but I notice is that I do totally different things to how I've been practicing in the studio when I actually play live. It's like, oh, I never did that thing, but I did it there, and I don't even know, and I can't even replicate it again. So there's that thing about. Playing live and that buzz again, coming back to that again. Yeah.
So do you have a system to preview whatever you are programming, or are you just throwing it in and hope for the best?
Yeah, I don't have a system to preview at all.
Okay.
It's the way that the machines that I use for my music, they're lacking that. Whatever they are, it doesn't matter. I would love to have such a thing, but no, it's not available.
Well, you could do it on a mixer. When I do live improvisation.
I really want to. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, when I do live improvisations, like the ones we do every Sunday, it's like I just have like 4 or 5 sources connected to a DJ mixer, which is by itself a very, very capable improvisation tool. You know, it's like it's made for performance basically. And every channel can be queued, so I have, you know, one synth or one thing coming in one channel, and then when it's not in and I sort of want to create a new line, I do it on my headphones on the queue, you know, and then when I think, oh, this is close enough, I'll just throw it in, you know, and then just sort of tweak it to make it kind of gel with whatever else is going on, because you cannot always completely tell how it's going to sit in the mix, you know. So, you know, some adjustments might be needed, but it's sort of in the ballpark already. You know what I mean? That's the way I'm usually doing it.
I call it Hail Mary mixing.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
That's my technique also.
Same.
It depends on, I mean, I'm now using a DJ mixer, but I used to just use a Mackie 16 channel, which people tell me there's a way to cue that and pre-listen, but I've never learned how to do it. I don't know why. It shouldn't be that difficult. We were like, oh, why don't you just do this? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't ever figure it out. So it's now I have a little bit of ability to listen, which would be nice.
But you are, I wouldn't say reckless, but again, like, you know,
No.
you just don't care, right? It's like you just throw it in and deal with it.
Yep.
That's very
Definitely.
courageous.
But it really doesn't come from courage or or an artistic like statement. It's just the fact that I can't figure out how to do it any other way.
Wow. But it does work, and it sounds.
It works, yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody could write in the comments or help me figure out how to do that on a Mackie Mixer, that would be great.
Isn't there a queue? Isn't there a queue on every channel? No.
Not that I know of.
Hmm.
Maybe
Well,
you can listen, but you can't listen to the rest of it. I'm not really sure. So maybe
Right.
somebody can help me.
Well, yeah. I mean, on most studio mixers there is a queue, you know, or maybe like solo in place or something like that, or you can maybe
Yeah.
route it to the bus and then just preview the bus or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, depends on the mixer, I guess.
Yeah.
Figured it out.
Getting back to the key question, I usually have like a favorite key for. I don't really know music theory either, but I do think about, like, I love writing melodies and make a lot of like melody driven stuff, I guess. So I have sort of a favorite key for a couple of things. Probably a live set I do is the same key, and because that helps if you want to throw something in there, you know what's going to be safe. And I just practice that key a lot, or like make sure I have muscle memory to know which notes are in that scale. And yeah, it doesn't have to be harder than that. Just learning a particular key you like and stick with it for a while. You can do quite a lot in just one key. You know, it's there's more to it than just the notes. Also,
Yeah, I realized that years into it. Wow, all the tunes, the songs I made are in the same key. Yeah, that was a fun story.
Let's take a look around in Chang's studio. Isn't that a Commodore 64
Yes,
on
yes.
your right, left for us, or right for us, left for you? Are you still using that?
Yes, yeah. I'm a big fan of the Commodore stuff.
Nice.
Amiga and 64, yeah, big fan. And yeah, of course, the games and also the music capabilities on these things is just really rad. And the way that you can combine them with today's technology and what they do as retro, it's really cool stuff. For example, here I've got like the Techno sound cartridge. It's for the Amiga. So it's basically like an audio interface. So you have an input, like a stereo input. And you could sample audio into the Amiga and twist it around at effects. What I really like is dropping the octave, the pitch down, and you get really nice artifacts because
Crunchiness.
of the bitrate. Yeah, it's so cool. I think I really enjoy it. Yeah,
And
I play a lot of games also. I'm really into that. And one thing that I really like is the sound effects in the games are actually, I haven't really done, but I really want to sample and work on them. And yeah, it's, especially on the Mega Drive, most of the games have got this sound test mode in the options, and you can preview those samples in the game and show them. And if you run them through like a proper EQ or a distortion pedal, you get crazy cool sounds. And that's something that I do with these machines time to time.
And is it something that is it there because it's one of the things that you encountered that make noise in your childhood, or is it something you have acquired on a later in your journey, basically?
It's very childhood. This is extreme nostalgia.
Is it still the same machine, or have you gone through several? Okay.
Yeah, it's not the same. I lost a lot of. I've not lost, but all my childhood toys and stuff and everything just disappeared. I don't know. I don't really remember what happened. No wonder why. But and then I started collecting all the stuff that I wanted again. And then I realized that actually the technology has improved. You can put a SD card into it, more memory, it's quicker. You have this hack, and it's been a great thing for me like that.
Okay, so you have upgraded it to make sure it talks to modern equipment as well.
You can put
Right.
SD card into it simply. Yes, so
Yeah.
you can drag and drop files from internet into these. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cool. So
There's even like they make new games for the Commodore 64. There was we were just playing it actually, the shooter game. It was made last year in 2020. It was one person making it, and it's really really cool. So it's for me, it's very exciting, the retro stuff, and getting combined with the current stuff, and especially if you look at the musicality of it, it's very interesting, I think.
So are you running any trackers or sequencers or music apps on it, or are you just making sounds on it?
Both actually. I'm not really a tracker person, but yes, here is very very good at that. So I'm a kind of a noodler, and I just find the good sounds and the good workflows, the freaky weird stuff that I find, and I capture them, and somehow I do something with it. But yeah, I do have a tracker on it that I really like. It's called Sound Tracker, and I bought it on an Amiga format magazine as a child, and it was awesome to see that at that age, and being presented with that musicality on your games machine as a child. It was mind blowing.
Yeah.
I had Worms. I don't know if anybody knows the game, but I had Worms on disc, and it had all these worm samples, like when they would get shot and whatever those sounds. So I would load them into the tracker because I didn't have any other samples. So I would try to rip the sounds from other games into that tracker. But nowadays I find it too messy, not messy, but a bit archaic to work on these trackers. Talking about trackers, Polyam Tracker is totally non-archaic for me. It's very inspirational. I highly rate it. Awesome stuff. Talking about trackers, just randomly, but yes.
Yeah. I can remember having one of my first experiences on a Commodore as well. I don't remember the name, but it was like some drum machine, like a visual, like a grid basically with 16 steps or whatever, and then multiple rows, so you can program your bass drum in the first one, your snare drum in the second one, like a sort of like a matrix basically. I don't know, I don't remember the name. Maybe you know which one I'm talking about. It was from that time, so it's nothing that was developed afterwards. Anyway, but I was fucking mesmerized. Putting it at crazy speeds and stuff like that, just making a bunch of noise.
And how old were you?
I don't know, probably, maybe 12 or something.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
We had a TI-99, the Texas Instruments TI-99. That was our computer. My first computer.
Did it do any musical stuff?
I think it did. It was a bit too much for me. I didn't understand like the basic computer language and all this stuff. It was like I played this game called Hunt the Wumpus. It has great. I actually found the samples on YouTube from that game. So I have yet to do something with them, but they're not the best quality because they're like from a YouTube thing, but I do have them. So
Wow.
Nice. So what else is in your cave, Chang?
There's also a Mega Drive. Yeah, that has
nice.
got the cartridge. You know more
The
about
cartridge.
this.
Oh,
You showed it to me. The Gen NB, right?
yeah. It's a MIDI interface for the Genesis,
Amazing.
or what's it called? A Mega Drive. Genesis in the US, Mega Drive in the EU. It turns it into a little synth. It's a pretty decent, it's pretty bad FM chip from Yamaha, but it's still fun. Sounds crunchy.
So I sequence that with the Octatrack. So MIDI output goes into the Mega Drive controller input, and the cartridge turns it into an FM synthesizer.
Oh, cool.
And just messing around with it is awesome. And one thing is neat: the Octatrack has got the randomizer now, where you can randomize your parameters on the screen.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So now you can actually do that on the MIDI tracks. So when I've set up the MIDI CCs to control the FM parameters on the Mega Drive, I can randomize it. So I'm basically randomizing external gear, the parameters. That's really cool. So, and then the output of the Mega Drive goes into the Amiga, and that's how I sample it. So it's a really, you know, modern but archaic type of
Yeah.
working on that. Yes.
Yeah. So
Setup.
would you say, Chang, you are somebody who writes stuff from an idea that you have in your head, or are you more a producer who just fucks around and stumbles upon things and just go with whatever happens? Because you said you use, you know, if you talk about randomizers, that's one way to get started, you know, to get an interesting starting point.
Yeah, I always just stumble around most of the time.
Right.
And other times, my music is very feeling driven, at least in my internally. So it really depends on what's happening at the time of my life, and that pushes me to make music or not make music.
Yeah.
And that does affect the mood and the outcome that I get out of it as well, and I plan to do. But, you know, most of the time, on the other hand, it's like, yeah, I need to make music, so I need to do something. And in that case, I stumble around. Yeah. And, you know, that's why there's a lot of these little gadgets that I've been saving all the years. Oh, this is nice. But, you know, that type of stuff. But yeah, more of a stumbler, I would say. Yes.
Yeah. What about you, S?
Yeah. I guess I'm also more of a stumbler, honestly. I wish I had an idea when I came to write music and stuff, but I always just want to make a nice melody and take it from there, kind of, you know? Sometimes I have ideas, but it's more like being inspired by a sound or an artist I hear, and I feel like I'm gonna make something in that direction or something that uses, you know, an idea you get from that and explore that a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, definitely more of a stumbler.
Mm. Yeah, I guess myself as well. I mean, sometimes I have starting points which are purely sort of theoretical or even systematical, you know. Like I think about a possible chain of stuff that I can connect, and then I'm already like having fun in my head, even though I haven't even touched it, you know. Just hey, what would happen if I do this and this, and come up with all the sort of possibilities, you know, just fantasizing about it basically while I'm walking the dog or something, or and then you know, sort of basically, you know, a design system, and then the next step is to actually connect it like that, and then just explore the range of whatever the system allows, you know, and from that point on it becomes like stumbling upon the sweet spots that you start looking for, you know.
Yeah, I definitely do that a bit too, like having some sort of systems idea, or like, yeah, what happens if I connect this way, or like what happens if I try and make a rhythm like this, and then it's sort of at some point, you know, the music sort of guides at least me, I feel like after a certain point I'm like hearing a direction and I feel compelled to go there, you know. I don't know, I have a hard time feeling like I'm in control when making music, honestly. You know,
that's why you need randomizer.
No.
Because you control the randomizer.
Well,
you are the randomizer.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need one. No, but I don't know. It's a funny, like, I don't know. For some reason, I feel like being like I'm gonna stumble upon her feels like I don't want to be, for some reason. I don't know why. It feels like I would like to be the person that's like, oh, I had a great idea for this piece of music and I could execute that perfect, or sort of to the point of what I wanted to do, but I feel like I can't do that. Like I just, you know, whatever comes out, comes out.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know.
Techwell Woods is asking on Twitch the average time you spend on making a track. Who wants to comment on that?
Yeah, I used to be quite hard on this. Yeah, it needs to be a couple of days. That's what I would say. But yeah, that really changes. Yeah. I think one thing I could say is that the longer I spend on it, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, so you need to be considerate about the time I think you spend, and I think you mentioned it earlier that when you have something nice going on, you take a break.
Mhm.
You
Yeah, I
mindful.
was referring to playing live, but it's
Yeah.
certainly also true to a certain extent when you're in the studio. If you, yeah, I think it has to do with. Um, I think we all made that mistake, trying to, work on details and take it just a little bit further, and then find yourself ending up spending like a week on a project. And when you listen back to the first version, you realize, oh, damn, this was actually a lot better, you know, because it had the spirit and it had the original idea and the sort of fire in there that you heard when you were starting the idea. And then when it's all programmed into perfection, it also is becoming like a dead track, or a dead piece of music. So yeah, there's definitely a balance there that you have to catch. Some things that you can do, you can improve while you're still feeling it, are usually good. But if you go too far and start focusing on micro details that nobody else than you is able to hear, you get into dangerous territory, and it's better to just say, okay, this is as far as I can push it, and let's call it a day and move on to the next thing. I mean, all it is really making music is just moving on all the time, right?
Yeah. Getting to somewhere. It's a journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no such thing as perfection. You have to draw the line somewhere. You have to draw the line and say, okay, this is as far as I can get it, and then start a new idea. Starting a new idea is usually, I mean, if you, coming back to the question, usually an hour or maybe 2 hours is all it takes to get down, like the rudimentary version of your idea, and then you can choose to perfect it or to put it in another context afterwards, and or save it and start something new. But I would say the tracks that come together in a few hours are usually the best ones, and the ones that are taking days are, they give you a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and you gained a lot of new insights about your equipment and the studio process and blah blah blah. But basically you're just punishing yourself. And right, how's
Better
that for you,
time
how's
spent.
that for you, Colleen? I think you're a
Yeah,
fast worker, right?
I am. Well, I'm a
Yeah.
fast worker, but like you were saying about having ideas while you're walking the dog about like a certain way of setting something up, that's very much the same way as me. Like I get inspired by like the process or the gear or some way of working with the gear I already have, which would when you're working with Eurorack is great because that's like so easy to do that. And then I just exhaust that idea like to death, and then I never need to do it again. So I'll have like periods where I'll have tracks that all they don't sound the same, but they're all in this one pocket where I'm just like beating this idea to death and then move on to another thing. It's hard for me to move on from that one purging or of whatever my idea is, then to go on to the next one. So I'll create tracks really fast within a time period of maybe a month or something, like just and then I'll need time to recover, and then come up with the new thing that I'm going to beat to death until it's done. So for me when I'm making the tracks, when I'm recording the tracks, also it has to come together within 20 minutes or something. But then everything else, it really depends on how you're working, how long a track can and will take. If you're working inside of the box, I feel like it takes longer because you have to kind of, I don't know, the programming and the sound shaping is all kind of happening at the same time. I don't know. I would find that more difficult to make it move faster if I was working on a computer, but it's probably if you're comfortable with it, it's probably not different. But for me, it's just, and also the way I record is just like, so, but I don't record it until it's ready, until it really is sounding good, and then I record it.
Oh, okay. So you rehearse it until you think
Yes.
you nailed it, and then
Yeah, and I got the percussion, I've got the basic arrangement on my mind, so that then I can do it all.
okay,
So,
and then you record and bang it out, and that's it.
exactly. Maybe
Nice
3
one.
takes maximum, and then it's
Yeah.
like, meh. And I just wish, like, when you have those magical tracks, it's so great, but then I just think, why does it take so many tracks to get to that really great one? I wish it didn't take so many tracks to get to the magical one, where everything is just on point, and there's like, you try to, just all the frequencies are there just from recording, and then you try to make another track measure up to that, and it just never does. Yeah,
Funny how that works, eh?
I know. It's so it's
This-
like irritating at some level, which it's great, but it's also like,
The stars need to be aligned, I guess.
they really do. Yeah.
Yeah. I just saw a question from Deep Say Based. Is your live setup just for live performances, or do you also write or record tracks on it in the studio? What about you guys, S?
Yeah, it's almost been the other way around for me in a way. I've mostly made music for live sets actually, and then recorded it into an album.
Okay, so do you do that because is that your writing process anyway, or is that a thing you do on purpose? So you have like this thing you have to focus on. Like if you write something for a live performance, you are thinking about it in a different way, I guess, than if you're just freewheeling, experimenting in the studio. So that's
I think I like having a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I also like the idea of writing music for a crowd or like people. It's a nice, like, you can you sit and make this track or pattern or whatever and think about like, oh, this will be really nice because of this and that, and like sort of envisioning people enjoying it or something, or it's a nice spur, I think, for me at least. Whereas just writing music for myself on like a lazy Sunday is nice, but it doesn't happen that often. It's not like I don't know, I enjoy the agency, I guess, of having live performance to make music for, and then at some point I'm like, well, maybe I should just record this stuff and do it.
I'm exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Oh.
Oh wow! All these things I've accumulated over all these live sets, and then I'm like, and people are like, why don't you record some of that? Oh yeah, I probably should. That's a good idea.
Sometimes I'm just like, well.
And do you feel that you have to be to get to know the material? Do you feel you have to actually have played them out before you record them? No. Okay.
Oh, before I record them.
Yeah. So in a sense, you rehearse them to maybe the performance helps to find its final shape or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my live sets are really deterministic. Like or at least the last few years, because I got so fed up with trying to do this hyper improvised thing. So I started to think about what kind of, okay, I need to be able to play this if I'm drunk. So that was like the starting point, and then and I hate playing with a lot of gear. The most gear I've played with the last 4 or 5 years is 2 digitones, and that was it. And they're hooked up to each other, so it's like a chain there.
Nice.
So like I've just got every pattern after each other, and it just goes in a linear fashion. Then I add, I change some things up, turn a knob here and there, but it can't really go wrong, and that's the way I like it.
That's a really nice, beautifully limited and almost minimalistic setup. 2 digitones.
Yeah, I really
I can only imagine how fucking punchy and piercing that sound must be if you play those to just by themselves on a PA.
Yeah,
It must be really dynamic, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You were routing that through each other, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
using the master overdrive.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it's a good trick too.
Yeah,
It
massive.
makes for a lot of fun ways to play with it. And like in a big sound system, you can really go a little too crazy, maybe like just output a synth straight out into it. It's kind of like, but it's also fun, yeah.
So your live set is 2 digitones, and what about you, Chang? What is your current or sort of like
Sometimes one. Also.
Yeah, I see you doing rocket with one. Yeah, you only rocked it with the digitone keys also.
Oh yeah, but that was only for promotion.
But yeah, the question is nice because I try to differentiate it. Because over the years, I ended up keeping the gear that the machines that I really like. And those gear I can't really take it when I'm playing live. My live setup is very, it's kind of obvious these days. Octatrack has to be there because there is also a mixer and it's a sample playback and it's a fader. It's one of the most best machines ever made, I'd say. It's that type of thing. So it needs to be there. And then I need like a drum machine and a synthesizer. And these days I change it with like either a machine drum or rhythm or something else. And the digitone is the synth as well for me. So that would be the live setup. And modular effects to add it to that. So that's kind of the setup that I like doing these days.
And do you decide about the setup because you say you're changing it all the time? Do you decide depending on where you're traveling to, or what kind of room you're expecting, or something like that? Or
traveling is definitely the case. Well, back when it was happening,
yeah,
it definitely was a factor. I would love to take more. So that I'm quite opposite. You were saying, you don't have to have too much.
Carry on.
You were
Only
saying,
carry on.
But for me, no, I want to have a big setup that is like, it's going to have a lot of tricks there, a lot of stuff that I want to do there when I'm doing it. So in the studio, I work differently. The Octatrack becomes a MIDI sequencer as well. And it controls all the other stuff that I cannot take. And it goes back into the Octatrack, I sample it, and then I use that material for live or whatever purposes. So I use different setups like that. And I also make different music for live and different music when I'm in the studio. Because when I'm playing live, I'm really limited to the setup that I have. It's carryable, it makes sense to set it up and carry it and blah, blah, and it's tweakable, it looks cool. Blah blah, but in the studio, everything is possible. Anything is possible, basically. I like to think like that in the studio, without the computer. I mean, the computer, that's a different thing. The computer comes in when I have made the stuff I like to do it on the hardware, and then I have the idea and then I produce it there. That's the way.
Yeah, you mean like you generate it with your hardware and then you multi-track.
No, I don't do multi-track. No.
Okay, just record basically.
Yeah, I just record the stereo out. I get the good mix on the mixer, and I just record it out, and then I, hit produce it on the computer. Sausage.
Right. So.
Sausage making.
Sausage production. Dataline.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think most people who are watching this, or the people in the comments, I've already seen a few things about the video work you do and the performances that we can basically find everywhere online. I mean, I must say, as a live performer myself, I rarely see people who are that fluid on their machines. I mean, it's just a compliment I wanted to throw in. You are just insanely. It seems there's like absolutely no barrier between your mind and what comes out musically. There's like the machines are almost transparent. You are just flying all over the place with them, and you seem to really know them completely by heart, which is it's astonishing to watch. It's really, really cool.
Thank you. I spend a lot of time on them. I think that's very obvious.
Is there anything in those machines you haven't discovered, or do you know really every single thing that's in there?
Yeah, I think I know pretty much everything apart from the song modes.
The song modes.
I really like
Right.
the machine drum and the mono machine song modes. They're just, I think, spectacular. I think it's really cool where you can change which step that it will start, and I really like that type of playback.
I'm trying to figure that out actually.
It's really worth the time.
It's so much. I'm like I couldn't. I was short circuit when I tried to figure it out. I'm like, okay, I can't do that. Yeah, you can start it in like the middle of the pattern or something even. Yeah, it's insane, and you can change the step lengths. It's insane.
You can assign different BPMs, new states. It's very cool. But then on Octatrack, it's called the Arranger that I don't know about. On the Analog 4s, the song mode. I mean, it's never been my thing, and I know it as much as I need to know it. That's the way that I can comment about it.
Yeah.
But the rest of the stuff that I'm in, I like I said, I spend a lot of time on these machines. I'd rather say.
Yeah.
And
but you always find tricks, right?
yes, that's a very good point. You can know the features, but there are different ways to use those features.
Yeah.
That is a trick. That's one thing I can say, that I'm still discovering different ways to use those features. Totally. So it always changes. Even though you know it, you never know it all. And that's kind of the beauty of these machines, whether it's Electron or not. There are other machines that does have these type of things as well.
Yeah.
But over time, you kind of master it. It's a bit like gamification. You level up. All my archery is level 16 now. So it's like.
I mean, it's like I said earlier in the chat. It's like the Electron machines are basically, you can basically look at them as modular machines almost. They're pretty open-ended, and
I wish one of them was modular. That's what
I mean,
fun version.
I mean, the way it's set up, it's not like one function is always attached to another. You can just freely move things around and make connections inside and stuff, however you want. And that causes basically for people to develop their own ways of working with it. I mean, if you have a more simple drum machine or sequence thing, there are usually two ways to enter stuff into it, which is in step or in real time, and that's pretty much your only two choices. And with Electron, the Electron stuff it takes a bit more time to get used to it, but once you find the power, once you find your way of doing things, it's insanely flexible. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you decide to move to something else for like 6 months and come back to it, it's like, oh my god, how did it work?
It reminds me of when we were implementing the portamento on some keys, I think, and I mean just to get some like little peek into why there are so many options, like how I was just like, just add a slide knob, please. And then they came back and like, probably won't if it goes down or if it goes up, if it's polyphonic, if it's it's just a lot of there's a lot of bright minds around. There's like all of these, like they see all of these different paths a user could take, and I think Electron just has a history of trying to accommodate for a lot of that. And I think it's both good and bad. Sometimes it can get that's where the Electron is so difficult. Menu diving comes in, which I think is a fair point to some extent. But it is pretty funny with some cases like that where things that should be straightforward, like we need this function, but then you see all these things. But then again, it also leads to these different workflow perspectives you can have, which is cool. But it's a balance,
Yeah. Actually, Ess, you moved on and started doing your own instruments, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you tell us a bit about the Force stuff that you've been working on?
Yeah, so Force is a project between me and my partner Felicia, and we basically come up with concepts for stuff we want to do. Usually our like synths and effects and whatever software is our target at the moment. And yeah, we kind of both have sort of an more a wish to see stuff that is a bit more straightforward and focused, and kind of, like a good instrument has like things very boiled down for you, so you can like navigate that, maybe not blind, but almost, or, it's like very subjective in what it contains, like the parameters or whatever. And that's kind of our mindset from the get-go, and then we get like some ideas here and there. We're like, oh, we want to make this thing, and then I go away for a while and like come out from my hole at 4 a.m. and it's like, I got this oscillator or whatever, and kind of make that into some sort of product. But yeah, it's been going quite well, which is cool. And we got a new release around the corner, which I'm excited about. It's going to be pretty good, I think.
And I assume you're not going to spoil that here.
No. Jim can say.
The one thing I can spoil that is totally rad.
Fair enough.
Really, really cool. Very nice. Yes.
Thank you.
Instantly, sold. Yes. Really, yeah. Can't wait to get my hands on this. Honestly, yes.
So the collection so far consists of, I believe, a synth, a delay, and a sequencer, right? That's
So there's it's a bit muddled in that, like, we have like one sort of package that's like these 3 devices you mentioned, and then there's another synth that came out before that also has the same sequencer, but we made it available like as its own thing later on. So we got like a little FM synth / wavetable, and a little super saw-ish synth that's also actually an FM synth, under the hood at least, and then a little crazy delay, reverb-ish thing, and the new thing will
be out soon.
Going in, I guess, 2 directions at once, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually checked out the delay, and it's more than just a standard delay, right? It's this sort of like blurry. There's in one range of the delay that you can get things like as if they were. Like sort of blurred out, right? That it sounds a bit. It's quite unusual. I haven't seen many delays that do that.
Yeah. I mean,
how is that done? Is that like a granular synthesis?
No. It's just diffusion. It's just the technical answer is all pass filters, which is sort of the basis of a reverb. Mm-hmm. And there's a few delays that do this, like the Valhalla delay does it, for example. It's the diffusion parameter. But what it does is sort of introduce this reverb technology into one delay line, sort of. So like each echo will start to get softer, to the point where it's sort of becoming a reverb. And that's just something I like myself. Like all these things just come from making music and finding like stuff you like to do with maybe, you have like a few different plugins that you chain together in a certain way, and you're like, oh, what if I, made a thing out of this setup or whatever. And that certainly comes from stuff like that, where I'm like, oh, this delay through like a short reverb, I think that sounds cool. Then I want to do like a thing that does that, and then it kind of, you start exploring what else you can do with that and parameterize it into an instrument. And then I added a pitch shifter and a bunch of stuff, and it just became this crazy little effect.
So is that something that is at the basis of the concept, like something you wish you had and can't find in any other instruments, or do you have a really sort of it must be something you want to use yourself, right?
Yeah, I think that's important. But for me, I'm like just really into synthesis. So I can be like, oh, I want to explore this method of generating sound. And then, that might take a few months of just collecting different ways to use a certain technology. And at some point, I start formulating an idea of how that could look like in like an actual instrument or like a package, So it comes both from that and also like the desire of having a specific something. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I would definitely encourage people to check it out. There's some really cool stuff happening there. There was one thing that I wanted to ask Chang as well. Your stuff that you release on your Bandcamp page, you accompany it quite often with tutorials or videos or sort of explanations of what how it came about and stuff like that. Is that something? Do you feel you need to educate people about it or explain your music? What is the thought behind that?
The thought behind is a lot of people ask and they wonder about these things. And I see that there is an interest and demand for it. And so I think it works out well.
So it's like an extra service.
Yeah, I would say that totally. And
right.
I want to share what I discover in my studio to people. It's
right.
kind of like, I enjoy doing that. I enjoy talking about it. And I enjoy telling people that, this is what happens when you do it like this and you can use it like this. That's one part of me that I really like is finding out these stuff and showing it to people, especially my music creation. I enjoy doing that. And also, a lot of people have requested this all the time. I remember hearing it from many people, like, it would be great. That's how to see how you're making that track and how you're using the Octa track, or can I download the files and all that stuff. So it's a service that's been requested throughout the years a lot. Yeah, how do you do that and all that stuff. So that's basically
so cool.
It's really cool. But I think that it's actually quite courageous you do that, because it's you kind of open up the process to other people, and I can imagine some other artists would say, this completely demystifies the whole thing, like if you explain everything, what is there to not to enjoy, but how can you still keep a sort of an open ear to whatever you're hearing? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well,
that would be I would it's not my that I'm saying that, but it could be an argument. It's like the music is like, it's mostly instrumental, abstract electronic music, and whatever people experience listening to it is the most important thing, not really how it's made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess the majority of people I ended up talking to is on the other side of the fence, how it is made. And I'm one of them. I mean, I have a bad habit. It's like when there's a live performance, when there was, I would look on the stage. The music's great, no problem with that. But if it's a laptop, I'm turned off. Honestly, this is my problem. And so it comes from that. It's like, I find it really cool to be able to pull off these tracks on just hardware. And I think this should be shown and told, because it's pretty lame when somebody comes to me and says, "Are you a DJ?" And, it's kind of like that. It's just the way that I think. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I don't even know if I'm right or I don't know. That doesn't matter, actually. But I value that. And I think this is a kind of like an art that should be more prominent and out there. And hopefully people will get it more into it, in my opinion. I'd love to see more people playing on these boxes than a bunch of kids with laptops. Simple as. And maybe one or few of those people will see these videos or end up looking at one of my videos on YouTube, or actually even take it further and buy it and buy the album, and then you get to hear how I did it or whatever. And maybe he'll use those tricks. He or she will use those tricks in other stuff. And also, you said a very interesting thing, that it would demystify it. I'm kind of like on the opposite way. It's like the more I know about the music, the more it gets interesting how it was made. I'm kind of on that side. And that was kind of like how it got me into music when I was listening to Orbital on cassette back in the day. I was always thinking how they were making this music. I was even thinking, oh, is it whatever, you know. And the more I found out about it, the more I got into it, and the more I appreciated the music. It's like, oh damn, they're actually connecting all this gear, and they have to record it, and they have to perform it. You have to know this stuff. It's yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
added more to it.
I totally hear what you're saying, but I guess it's also if you are explaining to people how you did it, it only further kind of proves that it's a very individual approach, and that it's that actually the thing behind it is an art or an artistic drive, rather than just you know, just cold technology or whatever you would call it, you know. Like yeah, I mean, I think everybody who's listening to this and watches the Knob Twiddlers has a big fascination for how it's done, you know. That's why we talk about it. You know, like there's nothing as good as, you know, nerding out over studio techniques and tricks and stuff like that, you know. It's just amazing, but at the same time, it shows that even if you explain it, it doesn't mean it can be copied or it can be you know,
that aspect is
and even if it can, it's useless, you know what I mean. It's useless to
I would put it this way. It's like, I don't think I would be able to tell somebody to exactly do it the way that I can't. I could only show and talk about it, and it's up to them to take the information and pull it further.
yeah
I would even say that it's just like opening the door, that I can show you the door.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Morpheus in Matrix. But that's where you can try to copy it. Sure, you can actually. You can copy some of the tricks on the Octatrack, which Octatrack is a very strange beast in that way. Even few of my friends come over and we're rolling on the machines. They say, "Oh, I never thought of using it like that." You know, I see it in their eyes that they're just like, "Oh wow, you know, it's time travel type of thing." So those tricks,
Then you send them the royalty.
I mean, I don't know. Happiness.
I think it's so great. It's like, you know, more people, I believe, you know, you really want to inspire people, younger people to get into it. And I think that's really great. It's about educating and not like, I really don't like when people won't share what they're doing. Yeah, I think it's like, that's not what the community needs. We need to be inspired and supported, and not like, I'm not going to show you. It's just, it shows insecurity if you're not willing to like just put it out there. It's, I don't know. I think it's really
like
cool.
like when DJs sticker the labels of their records.
Ah, God. Don't get me started. That's so lame. Share the music. You know what I mean? It's about all of us. It's about a community. And it's like, why do you think you don't own that record unless you made it? Then it's not yours. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean,
really
in a sense, if you are the one that really knows that record and always drops it at the right time, the right moment, you in a way kind of own the record, you know. So
I suppose. I do understand.
No, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't really make sense to then just stick at the label, because anybody else who would get their hands on the record would use it in a totally different way.
Right.
So you know, unlike you. And wouldn't be, you know, would not get away with it or something, you know.
Right.
So it's and it's very, very true for you know, live setups as well. You know, you can. I mean, if I give you my live setup and I get yours, you know what I mean, it would be completely different. What would come out of it? You know, it's the same instrument, but it would be used in a totally different way.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah,
it's not precious. Your mind is what's valuable, not what's in front of your tools.
Totally.
Yeah. So in that sense, I agree with all of you that it basically is just a matter of encouraging other people rather than showing tricks that, you know, they can copy or whatever, because eventually, you know, that's what you want, you know, people doing their own thing with it.
And they will have to, because otherwise it doesn't become your music, I don't think.
Yeah, that doesn't have a value.
No.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things with hardware, is that you have to do it. I find it a bit different than working on computers. You just have to click the mouse. It's just like same as surfing the web. I don't want to just make music on a computer, no. But in my subjective experience, it's like, it requires much less feeling, or much less, I don't know. It's
What do you mean? It's more scientific like that, or less intuitive? Is that what you mean?
yeah, it's hard to explain because everybody's going to have a different experience with this.
Mhm.
But in my case, it's I find it like just not creative at all, and that's totally like blocking it in a way. It's like, oh, I have to draw this stuff with a mouse, and yeah, having the tactile. That's the word that I was looking at.
I think
Without that,
I think you know what you mean, because in theory you could do everything that a hardware instrument could do. You could set your computer up to do the same thing,
Yeah.
especially if you assign some MIDI controllers, or But it
you
just
could even
doesn't.
make an octa-track too, like that.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Having a relationship with a box or with an instrument is always more focused in a way, because you have a tiny, usually a very small screen, and you're much more focused on the hands-on controls, and your muscle memory. So you're flowing a bit more than if you're seeing everything displayed in front of you on a screen. And it tends to be more time-consuming to work on a screen. I think I'm a bit. I like working. I like using computers for what they're good at. Like the things that are exclusively possible to do there. Like you have shitloads of hard disk space. You could use it as a recorder, or you could fine-tune mixes and stuff like that. But if it comes to performance, I would much rather choose hands-on instruments.
Yeah. And I really value the interaction, especially the eyes as well. And when you're hearing and working on sounds, I think the eyes are really a part of it too. And especially if you're like looking at a machine that is like flashing these lights every time the kick and the hi-hat and the snare is coming, I think at that time there's something happening in the artist's brain, and that is just pure inspiration and pure buzz energy to actually make that music. I think this is a very important part, and maybe this is one of those reasons why we still buy hardware and still get fascinated by it. It's that human interaction, and when you are giving information into it, it gives you more back. On a computer, it's the same as surfing the web, like I'm saying. Its interaction is very like straight, static, it's not interesting.
Yeah.
Doesn't respond to you.
Yeah. Of course, you can have moving graphics, right? You can have all these jumping waveforms and ducking effects.
You could have your screen flash red every time you go to the basement if you want. I don't know. I've performed with both computers and hardware. I find both interesting in their own way. I think it's more what you gel with yourself in the end. Like, I don't think anyone gives a fuck what you use on stage, really, besides the people who are also into it. But then, of course, there is like a lot of fetishization today about like gear, and that's supposed to be a part of it. But also, I wonder if, like, in a few years or decades, people will be like, "Well, look at that person. They're only playing with a laptop." If someone's gonna say that, because now the
that's so cool. It's retro.
I don't think in a retro sense, but I think more in like, because in some way I just wonder when like this whole DAW-less stuff is so prevalent and people are so relying on like my live performance must be hardware. That's like what people expect. But I wonder if there's going to be some counterculture that's going to be like, I'm just going to use the laptop. Like I just got my Maximus P patch and like the 2000s, because everything revolves always.
It will. It definitely will.
I think maybe like I don't know. I think the tactility is always going to be there, and it's always going to be drawing people in. But I don't know. I think both are interesting.
Yeah, I think my opinion on that is that I think it's better to use one or the other. Like I've seen really great performances that are like only with laptop and controllers. And so I feel like it also depends, because a lot of the time people use the computer as like a safety net, or they think it's a safety net to have something to fall back on, but it ends up interfering with your actual live set and being a distraction. And so I think that it's really, you've got to be really careful about how you use it. As long as you're not using it as something to fall back on, I think is the key. If you can incorporate it in another way.
It seems like a nightmare to try and juggle those things, especially live. Like studio alone is annoying to have computer.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's sounding good, and that's like, I see that go wrong very often in a live set. Non-committal.
Yeah, actually, I just saw something about.
I think it was the electron machines being techno-orientated.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
true.
there was this thing. Maybe Sander can look it up, but anyway, I would say that is the thing that happens to not only electron gear, but with a lot of stuff. You know, like here we go. This is for Dataline and Ess.
I just don't think the sequencer is great for a lot of other stuff. It
needs
you need to work a lot more to make other stuff in Techno.
Yeah, I mean it's just
That's the issue. So basically,
like I make more not Techno, and it's always hard. I usually honestly program melodies and Ableton Live, and then I record it into my electron machines because they're just horrible to make melodies on. So yeah, don't at me. No, I mean, yeah, that's just my opinion. But like, I think,
yeah, I mean, it's like a locked grid. It's like 16 steps. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
steps 4/4, and then off beats, and then off you go. And it's like you can just put in random steps, and it will make sense. Depends on your mind state.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons. It's like it's very instant gratification when it comes to techno type of repetitive electronic music. And I said it all. Try making hip hop on that. You have to do the micro timing and all the stuff, and you can't even do it on the machine gun, for example. If I'm talking about electron gear specifically.
I think there, it happens with everything that has that works with a grid. You know, like even with software sequences. You know, it's like the thing that the environment doesn't really demand you to do, but kind of is the first thing that is I don't know. It's like. Let me find the words. I can't find the word. But it's like if you have something which is clearly divided in blocks, if you don't have any imagination, the first thing you would resort to is to kind of go by the blocks, by the grid or the make it rigid. I don't know. It's something that I always try to get away from, but I can imagine that happens, when you first get your hands on a machine. I don't know. It's not. I think it's true for almost all gridded environments.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. Yeah, I wonder if it's also like a cultural thing, like what the people who might gravitate towards making techno find fascinating to use. Like it feels like it's more like box oriented, like with a little sequencer, because then like you have quick access to this stuff. I don't know.
Well, if you
goes hand in hand, I guess.
if you enter something exactly on the grid like a 4/4 thing, it very quickly sounds like something. Yeah. It's like, hey. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, another one from Eric to Ess and Chang.
Oh wow, this is our my ex-coworker.
Okay.
This is Eric who writes the manuals for Electron and makes great sounds for the gear and in general great human being who I miss.
Yeah,
something from your barbershop project that you've been working on together. No.
He shouldn't have said that. He leaked it.
Eric, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That was the new
Eric.
Force device.
Yeah.
The barbershop the AI barbershop generator.
Yeah, exactly.
God damn it.
Everybody's gonna have the Dataline hairstyle. He leaked it, man. Yeah. So
Wow.
you either can be bold
What a sellout.
or S hairstyle. Two options. You got S or Data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have a secret barbershop project.
No, actually, I'm
I kind of
gonna
wish
ask
we
back in.
did.
What
now.
is it now? Yeah.
Yeah, we should maybe. We should maybe try.
Such a prankster.
Can you see much?
Oh, man.
Does the new
Yeah.
Electron stuff still come with a paper manual?
No. Does it?
I don't know.
A quick start?
Yeah, quick stuff.
Yeah, it has a little.
No, not a paper one.
Probably not.
It's just. I think it comes with a small getting started
okay.
thing.
I have the machine drum and the mono
the binder.
machine, the binder. Yeah, so maybe he could sign it for me, Eric.
Oh, yeah.
But he came in. I think the first he worked on was. Maybe Digitech or Digitone. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. He's still a legend.
Yeah.
Before that, we had Daniel. No.
Oh yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, Stan.
Of course.
Yeah, shout out to that guy.
Yeah, shout out to him. But yeah, the binder manuals you mentioned, I think they're so cool. I really like them. Yes.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Octatrack had that as well.
I love
One of the
the
first
manual.
Octatracks had the binder manual.
Yeah, and you're
But
just
now-
in bed.
Yeah. But now it's PDFs, and I'm pretty sure they don't come with it. I think it's
Yeah,
get
it's a
it
shame.
started.
It's a shame.
It's an improvement. It's technology, you know. It's a
I don't know if it's an improvement, man.
It's
I
money.
mean, there's
I don't.
There's something-
Cheaper,
improvement in a
yeah.
sarcastic
Yeah.
way,
It's a lot
actually.
cheaper.
It's not
It's
an
a lot
improvement
cheaper.
for me.
But I mean, it's both a lot cheaper, and it's also because of there is like movement in what the machines can do. So you will
right,
have
to edit
revisions
the
of
manuals easier.
yeah. So it's like
Yeah, there's something to say about, just sitting on the couch with a cup of tea and your
Yes.
machine in front of you, have the manual open and just go through it step by step just to get,
Yeah.
maybe, you only have to do it once really, to get through the whole thing, I guess. But it is a nice ritual, I think, to get to
No,
know
I go
it.
back to
So
it all the
important.
time
Yeah.
because you can't take it in at once, and then you're just like, well, let me see. And then there's with manual, especially the paper manual, I feel like there's so much stuff that I would just never think to do until I find out that I can do it, and I'm like, oh well, that's what a good idea. I never thought to even want to do that, but now that I can, I'm gonna do it.
And that's the thing. Who wants to today sit down and read a improved PDF?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah. So therefore, I
It's
think
not
you
the
stepped on an important point. It's like on a paper manual, you end up reading the stuff that you may skip out when you're browsing through the PDF.
Exactly.
Oh, it's got those features, and then you just flick through it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I think reading a book is definitely the way. And that's as technology improves.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to read them in PDF form when I was a kid, like the machine room and mono machine, like page to page a bunch of times. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's
And you can I download them on my Kindle, so
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
absolutely.
yeah,
It's everywhere, available
Yeah.
everywhere.
that's how cool I am. Reading my manuals on my Kindle.
Oh,
I
that's
know how to have a
that's
good time.
pretty cool.
Superstar DJ.
Yeah.
But those old manuals, yes, very good.
Yeah, I still
Also
have them.
remember that.
Yeah, I got a whole a section in the studio with the old manuals of all the gear. I got most
Nice.
of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Very good.
Yeah.
I never really look into them though, but for the Electron stuff, it's a good idea to at least
Yeah.
have a go once.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Especially for the Octatrack, that's like a Bible almost, or
Yeah.
another holy book.
Mm.
So to say.
Yeah, no, I haven't read it.
Yeah. I love my Octatrack. Wish I had a full printed manual. Well, they're out there. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that was on the first runs. I think it changed later on. There was no.
So let's switch back to making music. We often get the question, how do you start? And I often, I think most people, or not most people, but a lot of people start with the kick. And I can't imagine, I mean, I've talked about this a few times on the podcast, but I never start with the kick because you never know what's coming next, and does the kick? I mean, even working on a kick in the beginning of a track doesn't make sense because you don't know what it's, in what context it will be, what it's supporting basically. So what is your usual starting point? Is it sound experimentation, or do you actually write out a rhythm, or what is your process usually? Maybe start with S.
Well, these days I don't make much music right now. I was starting because I've been so focused on making the synths, and then I some months ago I was like, I think I'm gonna make some music today, and then I started making a synthesizer for that. So, which is a really bad way to do it. Don't do that. But when I actually make music, I start with the melody. Usually, I like a good melody. And starting with a kick drum, I guess, it's happened when making techno, I guess, or whatever. But that seems hard, or like a bit unnecessary. Maybe you can do that later when you need it. or it makes sense, as you say. I think like you can leave that for later when you know where you want to hit.
So melody, do you just get a keyboard and try chords and stuff like that, or are you writing step by step? What is the process there?
I rarely do chords actually. Usually
or generative even maybe. Is it?
No, I don't like that stuff.
Well, your sequencer has a sort of generative aspect to it.
Yeah, it was more algorithmic, if I may.
Right. Okay.
No, I don't really compose that much with process in that sense. I like to just kind of, I like to make a melody. I guess I start with a sound sometimes, have like something to start with, and then kind of go off on that tangent. What was I going to say? But yeah. I don't really do any generative stuff. I like kind of the process of finding like a melody that really hits you, because it's like, and that's something I think you can kind of train a little bit, because like many years back I felt like I couldn't really write a good melody, and I started like trying, and it was kind of like finding your voice or whatever. It's like, you kind of start expressing yourself in that way, and then I just found myself enjoying that a lot, so I just kept trying to like find, sort of, I wanted to go like have a sort of sound to it, and just trying to explore where to go with that. And I enjoy that process a lot.
So the sound, the quality of the sound, or the nature of the sound, would that be leading in what kind of melody you would eventually write with it, or?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, of course. I mean, that's also a very important aspect of things. I think the point where I enjoyed making stuff the most was like when I was working with my MC202. I would kind of play on that keyboard, find like a nice melody, and try to program that in, which I love that process, because when you found a melody and try to program it in, you basically lost it, but then you try to rediscover it, and it's a nice process. So I like to have a keyboard, but it can't be like a regular keyboard. It needs to be something freaky, like the 202.
So
it's a game,
The 202, exactly. It really makes you commit to whatever you're doing. Because it's to say the least, not so fluid, the process of programming a 202, and so you are kind of struggling against its limitations, which makes you even focus more on getting your idea done. Basically, the thing you just discovered is I mean, these things are notoriously hard to program, So.
It's a great sequencer, but the interface is stupid.
But they have that screen, man. I mean, how much information is there?
But you can do very complex stuff with it. I mean, I guess some engineer somewhere was like, hey, we should be able to program like this. Because like in the manual, they're like, or like, I think it's the TV303 manual, where the manual is like, here's how you program the TV303. First, you take this sheet music, and then you enter it on your synthesizer. Like,
Oh, thanks. Great.
Like, oh, cool, yeah.
Thanks for the tip.
Yeah, draw the rest of the fucking owl, or the rest of the meme. Yeah. No, but yeah.
So, Colleen, what comes first when you write something? Is it the kick or is it?
No, it's never. It's never the kick or the percussion. I'm
I
trying
knew
to. You already know.
Yeah.
All that is. I'm trying to get much better at my percussion because I just love all the techno that I like is super lead focused, and so that's what when I started learning how to make techno, that's what I wanted to learn. So it's kind of like whatever it is you want to learn out of like, well, how does that work? That seems, I think, will always be what you pay most attention to. If you're really interested in like the frequencies of, if kick drums, really boomy kick drums, or, you know, percussion, if that's what gets you into techno, then that's what you're going to focus on. I feel like for me, it was always lead, arpeggios, and I actually now I've started to write pads independently of tracks, and also I'll write a track, like a lead pattern, and then I'll write a bunch of like pad sequences in a separate session, and then I'll try to bring them together, and that's pretty fun. Actually, I've been doing that. So, and making these pads independently from everything else.
What do you mean? You build like libraries of stuff? Like
Exactly.
And
I have a session where I'm just building pads and melodies as a synth, like soundscape kind of things, and very epic kind of things, and then I will bring them to my 4/4 boxed in little setup, and then try to somehow mix those two things together so that it's all, none of it's like the pad is going everywhere, because it's written in a different mindset. So I like those two things, bringing those two things together. So that's what I've been doing a lot of these days.
So do you really separate those jobs, like building the sounds and building the banks, from actually using them? Because I tend to get impatient with that. If I'm building like a drum kit or like something to add to my library, I do that often, but somewhere along the way, I'm like, wow, this sounds great, and then I lose my discipline, and I go straight off in making music with it. Like I have a lot of unfinished drum kits, because I started playing with them before they were finished.
Forget that job. This is more fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Boring. Only when it comes to like atmospheric pads. This is the thing, and that's the thing I like to separate, because my mindset in working with that is so free of the 4/4, that mixing the two together at the same time, I feel like limits my ideas with atmospheric melody and stuff. So it's helpful for me to keep those separate. So it's like just a different mindset and a different feeling to get to say epic, like, because like then you get into the, and then it just ruins it.
Yeah.
But then when you bring it together, then it's amazing. So
yeah. And what about you, Chang? Because since you are using a lot of hardware, you must also have time slots you dedicate to building sound banks and collecting samples, right? Or is it?
I've only been doing that lately for different
really?
reasons, making sound banks. But when it comes to music making, it's I always start with music melody, I'd say, and my favorite way to start is the OP1. The sequencers in that, not only one. They always give me a lot of nice ideas to maybe build something with it. But that's kind of like a very sequenced approach. Some other times that I sit in front of the keyboard, like the digitone keys or whatever is lying around. The bass station is very good for that too. So yeah, it's mainly with the melodies I start with. And in terms of like sound banks and stuff, samples, yeah, it's really, yeah, whatever is there, whatever is popular type of thing. It's I always find random sounds, an old preset that I did years ago, or maybe an old pattern that I did. Yeah, actually, I was doing that recently, pulling out the old Electron machines, the Mark Ones, and looking at the patterns, and oh, that melody is very nice. I'll just take that out, put it into a new machine, and then start composing it. And, so it's yeah, whatever I get my hands on, and that's something that I notice in myself is that I don't start from scratch. I always try to find existing material and then bend it into something new. That I really enjoy doing that, changing the feeling.
What do you mean existing material? Would that be samples you find from records or?
Existing material is that I made on the machines.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
my previous works, stuff like that. Yeah, sampling records. Yeah, that's a. I'll that I have these Japanese vinyls that I sample from sometimes. Oh, Simon Kusel. Yes, our friend in Japan. Yeah, so he got me these really nice Japanese samples that I will sample from. That's the only time that I actually sample music. I always sample my own creations, like for example in the Amiga setup. That's a lot of times I do that. I make stuff on the Octatrack, I sample it in there, and I even like run it multiple times, resample. Yeah, so it's pretty much digging for good stuff that I've done or I can do now, and it usually starts with a melody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have some kind of not an archive, but index in your head of all the stuff you've done? If like if, for example, you need like a certain type of bass sound, do you have this ready in your arsenal? Like maybe I can go to this one or that one.
No, it's no.
Okay.
It's I always find a new bass sound or whatever sound it is needed. Yeah, that I usually do. One trick that I do, especially this applies to the Electron boxes, is use the existing patterns. Oh, that sounds nice. Copy and paste, delete the pattern, make something new, twist the thing, and it's going to sound good anyway because you're using your ears and your imagination to change something else. And that's kind of the beauty of this electronic music making, is that you can take anything and twist it to your own liking, which comes to really I'm thinking that it allowed sampling and it brought that culture and history into the music side of things because of the electronic side. Yeah, I am not organized. I think that's the way that I can put it. No, we're very disorganized, but I can also be very organized when I'm working on a project that, I need to have it multi-tracked and, I may need to change the kick at the end. They may have to tell me to change that, That I can do, but I don't enjoy it. That's not my artist side. That's just work side. That's it. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I would have expected you were really organized for some reason. I don't know. No, because it's just because the thing is, the way you work the machines, it just seems so effortless. So it sounds, or it looks like you have like all the stuff prepared really well, or
it's not power. It's not prepared. It's very lamely prepared. It's almost like
it's even better.
Glued, put together. Yep, totally. I would even be surprised with myself, like, gosh, I should have been prepared more. But I just do it. That happened many times. So sorry to disappoint you in that sense. I'm not even disappointed in myself now.
No, it was just I don't know. It's just an impression I got, because I think I'm disorganized, and when I see other people work, and they clearly seem to be knowing really well what they're doing, I think, they must be much more prepared than I am. But
I think they just practice so hard and they're somehow in tune with what they're doing. That's one thing I can relate to in myself when people say that, you work so fast with these machines, it's very fluid. I mean, there has been times in England when using the machine drum the first time and the mono machine. I mean, just endless hours of, not sober using that machine led to, weird muscle memory, reallocations in the brain. I can honestly feel that today and remember that was happening at the time. And then came the Octatrack, and then came the history.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's basically it comes down to really knowing your instrument. It's like practicing on a piano,
Yes.
if you're it's the same thing, learning your instrument is just making the barrier disappear between your intuition, your mind, and what comes out, I guess.
Yeah.
Redneck Discotheque, I love that name.
That's such a good one. It's almost like a game. Redneck
It's a good logo too.
What percentage of Chang's live show is rehearsed versus improv? I think you already kind of touched upon that in the beginning, right? So maybe
percentage-wise, I'd say like nowadays it's 50-50, maybe 60% improvisation. Yeah.
right.
So it's like the backbones are sets and then fly with it.
From Simon Halsberger, is there anything in the new expressive controller that would catch your interest?
Yes.
What are we talking about? Expressive controller? What's that?
Yeah, it's MPE. What is it? MIDI polyphonic.
Oh yeah,
expression?
MPE.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that each note has properties to it, basically.
Sure.
I just got a sense of morph. Maybe it ties into whatever I'm doing next. So I've certainly been digging into that quite a bit. I think it's quite cool. It's much cooler than I thought. Like being able to put your hands on something and each finger can kind of control the motion in the sound.
Do you have an input device that works with MPE, a Rolly or something?
Yeah, I actually have this right here because I brought it. It's this. Sensomorph. It's like a little rubber type deal. I've been playing around with this lately.
Yeah,
basically it's like a bouclish controller, but it's just licensed. Yeah. It's basically just a big pad. It's a big mouse pad essentially, but and it tracks your movement.
So you said it was cooler than you thought it would be. What is the thing that surprised you then? What is the?
Well, I guess you've all seen the Rolly stuff, the Seaboard, and it's typically played with a type of sound, type of music maybe, where it's like, oh, we can make this sound like an electric guitar, and then it kind of doesn't, but almost. Yeah. And you're like, cool. Which I mean, I'm sure I've offended thousands of people now, and I'm sorry. And that's not, of course, all it's used for, but it's a lot of that thing where you can introduce a more organic style of playing, which is cool. But to me, it's kind of like, I don't know, I don't really play stuff that much. But I think having that control on each of your fingers, kind of being able to like be a pressure control some parameter, and like it's like sort of having an LFO, or being the LFO yourself, if you want to like draw a sort of to someone who mostly uses little boxes that does that stuff for you. It's kind of cool to interact with. I'm not sure how I would use it in my own music, but for something like playing a pad, I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it really, you have the temporal aspect of playing something. You can vary the pitch or the timbre per note over time very finely and kind of direct the sound yourself, which is super cool.
Yeah. Nice one. Cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I just watched the clock, and we've already been talking for 2 hours. So
it's fast.
Time goes fast. Yeah. It's crazy. So maybe I'll take the opportunity to say to the people who are watching this on YouTube and Twitch to throw any sort of urgent last-minute questions in the comments now, and then I'll move on to the last bit which is okay. This is
Which is that?
This is it. Usually we give everybody like an opportunity to announce whatever they want to talk about. You know, like something they want to promote or plug, current projects, stuff like that. So maybe, Colleen, what's up for you? Anything in the pipeline for you?
Well, I have a remix coming out on Friday for Ellen Alien.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, who's just so great. Such a good, like, just a legendary female. So that's coming out Friday, yeah. And I'm doing I'm doing a workshop or class about something we touched on here about how to, a guide to developing a live set. So that's going to be in 2 weeks. And
where can people find how to join that?
This, just check my social media. Follow me on Instagram, and Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on TikTok.
Yeah,
just kidding. Yeah. If you follow my social media, we'll give all the details. So that'll be fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And and then more music coming out that I can't talk about, of course. I'm not at liberty to say just yet. So
okay,
lots of music.
Awesome. Well, definitely keeping an eye out for that. Cool. Thanks. Ess, anything you want to promote? Anything you want to make people aware of?
Yeah, buy my stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's pretty good, I've heard. Dataline finds it okay.
Yes,
it's Impressed. Fine. Force.fm, F-O-R-S.
Yes, Force. I'm
gonna keep making stuff. Just would love everyone to check it out. It's mostly Max for Live platform I'm focusing on. And just kind of keep doing that and dropping some new cool stuff.
Any plans to make your stuff available outside of the Max for Live domain at some point?
Yeah, some plans, but it's not a one-person undertaking. Currently, I develop everything myself, so
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, hopefully, but it's a much bigger thing than making a Max for Live device.
Yeah, I can imagine. Anyways, well, I would definitely encourage people to have a look at the Force.fm website. This FORS.fm. And check out those instruments.
We do sliding scale on our prices, so if anyone is like broke, just hit us up.
Ooh, don't say that. Everybody's broke.
If anyone's too broke.
Okay, well, it's good. It's good that you have a policy in place for that. That's great. That's very, very good.
It's more an honor system.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, everybody have a look there. It's really great stuff. Cool. Well, Chang, anything we can expect from you? Anything you want to promote?
There's going to be some stuff on the Dataline channel in the coming times. One thing I could say is that I'm really excited towards the end of the year that I'm looking forward to. And let's see how that works out. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Life is like a completion of circles. They go round and round and they intervene with each other. And then they lead to somewhere.
That's so deep. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks, Colleen, thanks, Ess, and thanks, Chang, for joining us.
Thank you.
It's really interesting to get an inside information about your processes and everything. I think I'll just end with saying check out our Patreon page. I'm actually very late delivering this month's sound pack because it became like a Frankenstein massive undertaking, but it's coming very soon. And we have a Discord server where we hang out after these chats and during the week talking more nerdy stuff about gear, making music, and being electronic musicians. So have a look at the Discord server. Sander should be posting all the links in the comments, and it's also under the video. So have a look there. It would be nice to see you there. So thanks again, friends. Thanks, Colleen. Thanks, Ess, and thanks,
Thank you.
Chang.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, and thanks for the people who watched on YouTube and Twitch. And see you next time.
Bye, everyone.